Hey guys, Luke here. I'm here to preview round 4 of the 2015 NRL season. Now I decided to just do one big video rather than like 5 or 6 little mini videos just going through individual games and that sort of stuff. I decided to save a lot of time for myself, plus views aren't huge as well, so it just cuts out a lot of shit for me. So we're going to go from Friday to Monday. That's how it's going to be from now on up until maybe like later in the year, but for right now this is what the format's going to be. So we've got the Eels versus Rabbitohs, they're the first game. And also Tigers and Bulldogs also on that Friday night. So my thoughts on the Eels and Rabbitohs, and I'm not going to go through individual sides, but interesting things. Falau retains his spot in the side for the Eels. Tim Grant, he's at lock for Rabbitohs. Also Darryl Millard making his return. I think the last game he played in the NRL was about 2009 for the Bulldogs. So interesting to see how he goes. I think Eels, haven't been that impressed with the Eels. I mean, their first round win was pretty good. I mean, it's hard to judge them because they got so many injuries, but I feel like last year it was sort of passed it to Hayne, and now it was like passed it to Red Radra, and now he's not there. So interesting to see how they go. They had a little bit of a comeback against Warriors, but Warriors were really turned off. So yeah, it's hard for me to judge the Eels. While Rabbitohs, they weren't that impressive against Tigers. They did enough, but they never really got out of like first or second gear. So they did it pretty comfortably, although they didn't absolutely smash them like I would have thought. If I had to make a guess, I'm going to say Rabbitohs 13+. They wouldn't be surprised if Rabbitohs only win 1-12. Moving on to the Tigers and the Bulldogs. Team lineups. I don't know who this winger is. Hota for the Tigers. I don't know who he is. In Bulldogs, they're the same lineup as before. Talking about the actual game itself, I think Bulldogs are pretty good against Manly. Not in terms of like, ball control or scoring flashy tries or anything, but just due to the fact that I never really felt the game was, I never really felt that they were going to lose. It was sort of a bit of a scrubby game due to the conditions. Whereas Tigers, I never thought were really in it against Rabbitohs, although they were in the lead at one stage. Never felt like they were ever actually going to win. It was more of just waiting for Rabbitohs to start playing some like half decent footy. For that reason, I'm going to say Bulldogs. I think we'll win 13+, hopefully. Moving on to Saturday's game, which is the Knights and Panthers. Then we've got Sharks and Titans, and then Dragons versus the Sea Eagles. In team news, just having a quick look for the Knights. Doesn't look like there's anyone missing or anything. For Panthers, once again, no just Howard, he won't be there for ages. But yeah, for the most part, doesn't look like there's any massive changes. So we talk about the Knights. I thought they were, they've been okay. They've been pretty good. They're 3 from 3. I don't think they've been absolutely outstanding. I've heard some people say a few things about maybe a minor premiership. I think that's way too far, to be totally honest with you. They'll drop off soon, and I think this might be the game that they drop off. Although it is at their home ground, so maybe they might come out and just destroy Panthers. Who would know? I mean, Panthers are without Soward. I think the game against Roosters, I predicted Roosters to win, which they did, but it wasn't as convincing as what I thought. But I think that's largely due to the fact that Roosters were pretty lackluster, if I had to say so myself. Maybe they just didn't take Panthers seriously enough or something. But Panthers were pretty good. If you'd flip the coin another way, it could have been a totally different game. In terms of the Zelezniak try, I've seen a lot of people saying that like it's a fact that there was a try and referees 100% stuffed it up. I'm not so sure. I tend to think that he might have ended up dropping it, but I don't know. It's really hard one for the video ref because the frame rate with NRL cameras are very, very poor, and they gave it a no try on field, so it's a bit of a hard one. But if I'm going to make a prediction, I'm going to say Panthers, another 13+ for the Panthers. Moving on to the Sharks and the Titans. Now, this should be an interesting one just because both sides are pretty average. The Sharks side, Ben Barber, he's out. Wade Graham moves to 5'8", which is a big move for them. Jack Bird on the bench as well, making his debut for the NRL potentially. For Titans, we've got Kane Elgie, or is it LG or Elgie? I'm not sure. I'm going to say LG. He's come into the side for Daniel Mortimer, who was horrendous. He was absolutely horrible, Mortimer. He couldn't kick for shit. I think he nearly single-handedly lost the game for them, I'm going to say. But LG, get to see if he's the real deal. Don't expect him to come out and just destroy. It might be another situation as Luke Brooks where everyone talks him up, hypes him up. Then he comes out and he looks a bit average, and a lot of people are like, oh, really? Is he that good? But that's going to happen when they're young. You just got to deal with it for a few years, and then you reap the rewards, in a few years' time. And I think LG, he should go alright. He should go pretty good. Caesar probably do the majority of the hard work, as he always does. For the Sharks, I'm not really sure how Wade Graham, Jeff Robson's are. I don't think Graham's any better at kicking from what we saw the other night. I mean, I think his first kick went out in the full as well. So, I mean, they keep saying Ben Barber's got a bad kicking game. Now they're putting a person who hasn't played 5'8" for a fair while in there and expecting him to come up with the goods. And I just don't think it's going to happen. Although, in saying that, it's very hard to pick. I'm going to actually go with the Titans. I think Titans being a little bit more spirited, a lot more fight in them than what the Sharks have had in the last few weeks. I'm going to say 1-12 just because I don't really fancy either side. But, yeah, I'm going to go the Titans. Moving on to the last game of the Saturday, it's the Dragons taking on the Seagulls. So Dugan, he's back. Well, I think he played last week, but yeah, their side looks pretty similar to what it has been. Trent Merrin in the starting side, obviously, but Seagulls, they got a few returners. Foreign's back in the side, Jamie Lyon's back in the side, which moves Mateo back as well into the second row. Now, I've got to say, Mateo's actually been quite good in that 5'8" role. Maybe, just maybe, he might be the man to go in that 5'8" position next year, but it's a long shot. Ewan Aiken in the centre role for Dragons. He was outstanding last week, although he was up against some pretty poor defenders. I think Lee and Tupou were the backs he was up against, and they were just terrible in defence. But yeah, Brett Stewart, he should benefit, as well as they all should benefit. That whole spine being back to normal, they should just come out all guns blazing. Although I don't think they were very good against Seagulls. I thought Cherry Evans was very quiet. Brett Stewart was pretty quiet compared to his usual self. But at the same time, they didn't get blown off the park by the Bulldogs, which is what I thought would have happened. But I've got to make a prediction. I'm going to say Seagulls 13+. It's another one. A lot of 13+s here, but yeah, that's just how I see it. Moving on to Sunday, we have the Warriors and the Broncos, and then we've got the Roosters and the Raiders. So we're going to go with the Warriors game first. So it's at home, so obviously I'm going to pick a Warriors win, especially up against Broncos, who, although they did smash Cowboys were pretty bad as well. But this could be a sign of things to come for Bronco. Kahu be getting more adjusted to his role. Same with Milford in the 5'8" position. Just the combination starting to gel a little bit more. Same company said for Warriors. They were good last week, but Sam Tompkins injured once again. Once he went off injured, they sort of fell away a little bit. But I think that was just due to the fact they had such a big lead as well. So I wouldn't read too much into it. But at the same time, you know, they finally get all their players fit. Well, they have a lot of people in the back line injured, but when their main man Tompkins is finally fit and he goes down and gets injured, thankfully Lola here, who's another Supercoach cheapie that you should be getting, he fit in pretty well in the first round at fullback. He played quite well, maybe was even their best player. I think out of all those guys, the man who's under most pressure is Sean Johnson, and needs to step up big time. Orwood coming into the side in his third position, I think he really he needs to do something good, because he came from the Raiders and I wasn't that impressed with him. So if he wants a spot on the side, definitely needs to produce. Broncos side, you know, they're very good last week. So it definitely wouldn't put it past them coming out and smacking Warriors, giving them a touch up. But I just think because Warriors are at home, it'll just be a Warriors win. I'm going to say 1-12. Although it could be anything. You got Roosters taking on the Raiders, which is the second Sunday game, I should say. And looking at their lineup, you know, it's very strong. Still no Jake Friend, but you know, I don't think there's any differences from last week. Raiders side, Jack Whiten comes back in at fullback, moving Rapana to the wing. That should be a big plus for them. The rest of the side, pretty straightforward. Obviously, I'm going to predict a Roosters win. I think Roosters are a really strong side this year, as they have been in the last few years. But yeah, I think they'll just be way too strong in all areas. I think they probably will give them a bit of a touch up. But at the same time, Raiders have had a lot of fight in them this year, which is something you haven't said a lot about a Ricky Stewart side for a fair while. I think Soliola, he's up against Roosters, so maybe he has a little bit of a point to prove, seeing they got rid of him many years ago, before they went on to be real gun side. But I think the key to where the Raiders go well is just how good Jack Whiten, when he comes back into the side, just how well he gets in there. And if he has a good game, well, then Raiders are in with a chance. But I see Ferguson just coming out and just having a blind against his old club, which what tends to happen with these sides coming up against their old side, which is the Raiders. Yeah, so 13+, I'm going to predict for the Roosters and the Raiders. Cowboys and the Storm Monday night. Team lineups just pretty much the same for the Cowboys, I believe, although they were very shit. Maybe they should have got rid of some people. Storm pretty much the same by the looks of things. They were pretty impressive, I think. Tohu Harris, he was outstanding last week. Probably one of my favourite players to watch. I thought Blake Green was incredible last week too. Now I know the commentators talked him up a lot, and maybe he isn't as good as what the commentators talk him up to be, but I think he's the perfect halves partner for Cronk, to be honest with you. Just another real smart player, and I've said it since he signed. I think he will be a great fit in at Storm, and he seems to be. And Corabetti is coming up with the goods as well. Really hard to read the Cowboys because you look at their side and you know they got so much. They're capable of so much. But at the same time, you look at their back line, like Tautau Moga, pretty average. Like Winterstein, he's been pretty average. I mean, he hasn't played for the last few weeks, but you know, they haven't really got that outstanding of a back line. I mean, Lachlan Coote's played like one game in about 3 years or so. That's probably not accurate, but you see what I'm saying. Michael Morgan, pretty unproven at 5'8". Now, he made his name at fullback last year, and people will say, oh, well, he played 5'8" in the 20s and that, but they did try Morgan and Thurston in the halves years and years ago with Matt Bowen there, and it didn't work out then. And I'm not certain that's gonna it's gonna be a good move now. I just think Morgan works well slotting into that role, the sweeping plays and that sort of stuff. He's very fast. Plus, he's a decent ball player, but I think that's all he is. He's a pretty solid ball player rather than being a great ball player, which is probably needed for a half spot. But yeah, their forward pack is definitely their strength, but it's just not really holding up to a lot of sides at the moment. You'd think eventually it's just going to click for them. I'm not sure it's going to be this game though. I mean, they've lost two. They're 0 from 2 at the home ground, which is a little bit unlike them, or very unlike them. And I think Storm have been in great form, so I'm going to say Storm will win 1-12. I just think they'll have too much for them, and the big three come up with the big plays at the right times. So that's the previews for round 4. Hopefully you have enjoyed the video. If you can drop a like, that'd be very much appreciated. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Mr. Luke on YT. And check out my other videos, and I'll see you for round 5. Bye, guys.